Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Halo Club where we get your comments, especially from last week's episode of the Halo Club, and put it up here where everyone can see, where we can talk about it and talk about just a bunch of different things. And today we're mainly going to be focusing on Halo 6. These were the comments I was mainly looking for, but also the comments talk a little bit more about Halo 4 and Halo 5 as well as a few other things too. So let's start off with a comment from Pack Hunter. And by the way, let me just do a quick shout out here. We are doing a giveaway, follower.gg/giveaway. A copy of Halo Wars 2 Ultimate Edition could be yours. Be sure to participate in that before it does end. So, Pack Hunter, he says, one of the reasons why I loved Halo Reach was the Covenant seems extremely powerful, and it seemed like there was nothing you could do because it was only a matter of time before the Covenant finally destroyed Reach or yourself or both. The Covenant were truly amazing at their height, which would be during the fall of Reach. So yeah, I mean, what I've been talking about and what has been the past few weeks' subject in Halo 6 has been, let's have a new Covenant. You know, that was mainly the title of the last Halo Club. I was saying that a lot of people, they want the Flood, they want some big force, they want Forerunners maybe, or maybe the Covenant is somehow revived. They want something to return, like one of these races or one of these civilizations and militaries. So, what is it about all these things that have so much in common? And is that you don't actually know if you're going to win against the Covenant or win against the Flood or even win against the Foreigners, such as the Didact. And that's something that the Didact actually fell short on, so that was a poor example. But basically the Flood and the Covenant are both very, very formidable, worthy foes, whereas the Didact or Cortana, they're just not, they don't have the same vibe about them. And there's something I wanted to talk about this in this episode. It is very, very, very important, and it's sort of something I've been talking about in the past few weeks. So we'll get into that when we get to it. So let's move on to our next comment. Casp the Ghost says, honestly, I am sick of rewrites and studio involvements. So a little bit of context about this. A Halo YouTuber recently came out and said that basically Halo, now this is a rumor, but it said that Halo 5 was under a rewrite, which makes a lot of sense because Hunt the Truth, that marketing campaign with Benjamin, basically what happened with him was the idea is that it doesn't make any sense because the marketing and what Halo 5 actually turned out to be were very, very different. Now that could have just been mass misleading marketing, but it also points to a potential rewrite. So that's just some background on what Casp is talking about here. So he says, we have seen it a lot, especially this year. Halo 6 has to be a stellar story that people can relate to. One of the things that really saddened me was that we had Palmer and Lasky, or however that's spelled, in the game, but they got no development. I'm going to hold you right there. So yes, that is something I haven't really thought of. Actually, we are going to talk about character development a little bit more in this episode as well later on, but character development for Palmer and Lasky it was very lackluster, to put it simply. Now he continues, they were in the game for 5 minutes. Halo 6 needs rich character development of every character they bring in. And I just want to jump in here real quick and interrupt Casp, is that it seems almost as if Halo 5 Guardians, and there's been so many complaints about Halo 5, it is a very controversial topic, but it seems like they didn't really know what they were doing. It kind of seemed like it was all over the place. Now, and if you've seen the movie Suicide Squad, me and my friend, we went to watch this together, but it seems like the movie itself wasn't organized that greatly. And as it turns out, when after looking it up a little bit, Suicide Squad, the movie, had a couple edits. They cut certain things out. They did different things, and things were just overall changed. And that's basically what happened with Halo 5, I think. And of course, this happens with every game. So I think to the magnitude it happened was pretty large. Now, that's just pure speculation and a theory right there. However, of course, just with anything being developed, any game in the entire world has had cut content in it. So, yes, Halo 5 has had cut stuff in it. But anyway, Casp continues, it needs to be a sort of return to form. Flood would be cool, but keep Prometheans, brutes and elites fighting now, the human elites fighting side by side. I mean, there is so much I could say. They have so many things they could do right. They just need to delve in deep. They need to work so hard. Or they need to work hard. So much lore, and yet you get a train wreck like Halo 5. So, obviously from that comment, Casp isn't a huge fan of Halo 5 Guardians. Now, what is he not a big fan of? Okay, so one of the big things he's talking about is the rewrites and studio involvements, how it seems like it's just a big miss. Correct me if I'm wrong, Casp. And it seems like what he's mainly complaining about is just maybe the lack of focus on character development. And of course, anybody that is interested in writing stories or developing books or developing games with worthy stories, anything that involves story making, and I've said this many times before, is when I first started story making on my personal ventures, not here on YouTube, but when I first started, I didn't really think characters were that important, and boy, was I wrong. Characters are everything. You can have a really bad plot. You can have a really bad story, but if you got great characters, then then you got something good. And it seems like 3 for 3 went a little bit elementary. And I think this is why it's such a controversial thing too, because Halo 5 Guardians, in my view, and this may kind of come from a deep-rooted idea of what a real story is, but Halo 5 Guardians, in my opinion, was a good story. However, there is legitimacy. There is plenty of legitimacy when somebody says that Halo 5 Guardians had like not the greatest character development. It was flat out thin. You know, there was so much stuff going on. There were so many different characters that they couldn't get anywhere, right? And so what did that do in the long term, right? You could have a game like Halo 4 with Chief and Cortana being the main focus. And why I think that the story wasn't so great in Halo 4, the characters really did shine. And there was a lot of stuff going on. And so I think this really just goes to show that the major difference between characters and story. Now, since in my opinion, I think that they got the characters right in Halo 4, and then they got the story right in Halo 5. It was very exciting plot, but poor character development. I think that maybe in Halo 6, they might finally fine-tune their writing team enough and get everything down in the think room to properly express an exciting Halo story. But that's just what I'm saying. So thank you, Casp, for your comment. So Jiggles DeBale says, old classic art style from Halo 3 returned for Halo 6. So, yes, there are a lot of likes on this comment. I don't think it's going to happen. As much as I would love for Halo to return to that classic art style that you're talking about, it seems like something that just isn't very likely. And it's always been very hard to describe. I always called it like a cartoony design, but we do see it coming with Halo Wars 2. And it seems like they want to, at some level, return with an artistic view of a game for Halo. And with Halo 6, that is with Halo Wars 2, that is undoubtedly what they're doing. They're probably even going back to Halo Wars 1 and remastering the cutscenes to make it look more cartoony, remastering perhaps the entire game to match Halo Wars 2. That's how serious and how, I guess, excited they are to change the art style for Halo Wars. Now, Halo 1 to 3 was its own thing, many claim. Although now I see that Halo 4 to Halo 6 or whatever is going to be its own thing as well. So them randomly changing the art style, I just don't see being a very practical or feasible thing for 3 for 3 to do, even if they wanted. Maz D. Khan says, Locke is going to kill Cortana in the first mission of Halo 6, then in the end, the Flood comes back and he will kill the Gravemind in the first mission of Halo 7. So, again, a lot of likes. A couple of these comments were on the very top featured part of the comment section. Now, I just realized how repetitive repetitive this would be because, you know, right in the beginning, Agent Locke killed this the Sankelio leader. Why? What, his name has completely lost my mind right now. I know it, but he killed the elite in the beginning of Halo 5, but now I think it would be pretty cool, and I kind of like that in a way, because when I saw Jul Madama, that's it, Jul Madama, when I saw him die in the beginning of Halo 5, I was like, oh my, so he's not actually going to be like the bad guy in this game, he's not actually going to hold anything, what is the new thing? And so killing such an important person in the beginning of the game, which, actually going back to the rewriting thing for just a moment, a lot of people say that the reason why Locke killed Jul Madama was to kind of kill off the Spartan Ops branch of the Halo universe, because obviously that didn't work, and Spartan Palmer was supposed to, basically, in this rewrite, to be the the Sergeant Johnson, or did I say Agent Locke? Not Agent Locke, but Sarah Palmer. She was supposed to be the agent, the Sergeant Johnson, and then now Agent Locke has kind of taken over that role or whatever. And so I don't know what to think about that, but that would be cool. I like the idea of the Flood coming back. Obviously, I've said this many times, and also Gravemind. I just like the idea of something sudden. Like I like this new idea of having a hook in the beginning of a game, because almost every great movie has a hook, something that kind of, you can sink your teeth in right in the beginning of the movie that kind of gets you to watch the whole thing, and they should do that with games more often. So Captain Kairu says they need to fix the story for Halo 6, as in Halo 4 and 5, it was sloppy. It had no iconic quotes like Halo 2 or 3. Bungie kind of screwed 343 over by killing of Johnson. What I mean is, it is harder for them to bring someone like him into the story, as it wouldn't be the same. I mean, look at Commander Palmer. Not in the way 343 created Palmer to make Johnson again, but, oh, hey, look, we're talking about that. I think this is much more than just like a rumor floating around. I think it's almost as if the community has replaced that special spot, whatever that spot is meant for, wherever Sergeant Johnson was. Now Sarah Palmer is there regardless. She sort of seems like the commando chief guy that saw Argo and stuff. But anyway, 343 created Palmer to make Johnson again, but it failed because the story and script, she became a boring character. And by the way, guys, setting her up to shoot Halsey and setting her up to be just a general douchebag, not like a fun douchebag like Sergeant Johnson. Sergeant Johnson was hard. He wasn't like a dick or anything. Oh my gosh, wow. The way that I put words sometimes. He was mean, all right? But he wasn't like aggressive, and like he didn't overstep his bounds, right? Whereas I think Palmer has. Anyway, he continues. I know gameplay and programming comes before story. Right, and then the story becomes shit, but the original Halos had great gameplay and awesome story, so in all honesty, the older Halos were better, but at the same time, 343 had a lot to live up to, so lay off them, but they need to fix matchmaking MCC, cause finding a match is impossible. So, this is going to actually not have much to do with the comment itself, whereas talking about Palmer and stuff and Halo 4 and 5, obviously I think a lot of us can agree that Halo 4 and 5 was sloppy in some terms, at least compared to Halo 1 to 3, and that's for many different reasons. I'm sure that actually could be an entire video with an analysis on it. But anyway, what I did want to talk about is that 343 did have a lot to live up to, but to defend fans that are not so happy about Halo 4 and 5. I mean, dude, like 343, man, like you did have a lot to live up to, and I think, in all honesty, I think you did do a pretty good job, but that's not really okay, like you're put on to make a great Halo game, and again, in all fairness of everybody, they did have a lot to live up to, but that doesn't make it all right that they didn't do the best that they could have. I think some of us would make an argument that they could have done better. So basically, a person says, there is no character development in Halo 5. You have no clue what you are talking about. Talking to me, Chris. Halo 5 has no character development at all. So I don't really think that's true. Obviously, there is a lot of character development outside of the cutscenes, and most of the time when we talk about, character development, the story itself, a lot of it actually doesn't happen in the cutscenes itself, which is so easy to access. It's so accessible, just type in Halo 5 cutscenes and you can watch the, quote, Halo 5 story, but not all of the stuff happens in the cutscenes. It happens in the gameplay, the monologues, and like the short little things, maybe the in-game cutscenes where you can actually look around and stuff. So a lot of that actually was happening in Halo 5. So there was a lot of character development. John started becoming a lot more talkative. Cortana started becoming more insane. She actually did a lot of psychological play on Chief, and there was a lot of things that were said. And I think we just don't know Fireteam Osiris enough. And oh boy, I want to get on to something else. There's a comment that I really want to get to, but okay, let's move on. So the Magnifier of Knowledge says, nice username by the way, if there is a new covenant, I want the Ungoi to lead it. That would be hysterical. So the Ungoi is the technical term for a grunt. My gosh, that would be very interesting. A grunt leader, guys. Can you imagine? Can you seriously imagine that for a moment? A grunt, because that would just be, that would be so funny. Because I'm just trying to imagine, like, maybe that's like the hook of Halo 6. Like, an Ungoi finally gets the ability to maybe he gets control of a couple big nuclear bombs and shoots them towards like Earth, but then like they're pushed back around by Agent Locke or Chief, or something happens and it blows up this grunt's this grunt's entire militia, and it just like, you think that the grunt's actually going to be a threat, but it's hilarious because he blows up or something. I think that would be a great way. I think somebody was talking about it the other day, is that there's no comedy left in Halo. Yeah, I mean, there needs to be more comedy. I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad, okay? I love that show. Some white dude making meth and selling it and making tons of money, Breaking Bad and whatnot. But I think I counted, and I binge watched this. I counted. There was 2 comic relief moments in the entire series, and I get it. There isn't that many things you can put in there that will make viewers laugh, but it stops becoming fun when there's so much tension. And I think most of us that appreciate art, like movies and games, if you call those art, I call them art. If there is no jokes, if there is nothing to relieve the tension or to remind you that this is just a fun piece of art in itself, then it becomes very tense, I guess. And I think that a lot of people don't like that tenseness. I know I don't. And I may just be speaking from the heart here, but please, Halo 6, there needs to be more comic relief. So JWalkZ says, username, it's just people who are still living in the past and enjoy kissing Bungie's ass. They started going downhill when they made Halo Reach. When 343 made Halo 4, the multiplayer was awful, but the campaign was great. In Halo 5, the campaign was less than decent, but the multiplayer is great. I think in Halo 6, we will get the best of both worlds. So yeah, Jay, I mean, from what we've been talking about so far, I see a lot of mistakes that were made in Halo 4, especially the outsourcing of Forge. Obviously, that was not a great idea. 343 is, at this point, very ambitious for Forge, so I'm happy that they did it with Halo 5. Now, I feel like, in a lot of ways, what we talked about last week was that Halo 1 is like Halo 4 in a lot of ways, because Bungie was first making a lot of things, and then 343 started making a bunch of new things. It was like a brand new project for both of them, even though 343 had the lack of experience, but also the abundance of a lot of stuff that they could work with, right? So in a lot of ways, I think that they're even, when you average it out. There are a lot, I mean, that's a very controversial, very big statement to make, but I'm just saying in general, right? They were even. So maybe Halo 3, the modern day Halo 3, will be Halo 6, where they finally figured out what they were trying to do for Halo. And they're like, hey, look at this. This is what we're trying to do. And we can be like, oh, I now understand it, yo. And then maybe Halo 6 could be an appropriate place to judge Halo where it is nowadays versus the Bungie days. Mike Seed says simply remove the Forerunners. I don't really know what he means by that, but I did want to talk about the Forerunners for just a moment. So the Forerunners aren't that mysterious anymore. They've already made a couple books pretty much line upon the Forerunners. Halo 4 was very Forerunner-y. Halo 5 is getting more Forerunner-y, and it's kind of exploiting so much stuff, that like kind of mystery and that almost kind of like silent fear sitting in the background of what Halo is. It just seems like they kind of opened it up a little bit, and that could be good, but it could also be bad. We're starting to finally explore Halo in a lot of ways for the first time. We're starting to figure out, after literally 15 IRL years and real life years, we're starting to figure out all these things about Halo, and that's something that I think a lot of Halo fans have been waiting a long time to figure out, like, what is this or what is that? But honestly, I don't think there's anything that they could really show us after knowing what's there that would have been worth it. I think that the element of mystery and surprise always lying around another corner was a much better route than kind of exploiting all the Forerunners stuff. So Bradley Pavlov says, I hate Prometheans, that's the only thing I don't like. So the Prometheans, I think, were a great twist into Halo. It added a lot of variety. It added new strategy. I really liked what Halo 4 did with strategy. You definitely, if you're not a fan of Halo 4, you got to give a little bit of credit to what they were at least trying to do, trying to add new strategy into a Halo game, which is pretty hard to do with an FPS game, Actually, well, sort of, in some games anyway. But point is that Prometheans, they need to kind of take a few steps back on them, honestly, but it's whatever. In my world, I consider Prometheans like, it belongs in the Halo universe, I guess. I mean, why not? All right, so we got somebody else getting really mad at me here. Jackal Trader says, what the F are you talking about? Halo 4's soundtrack was incredible. They could have easily taken the lazy route and reused the old soundtrack, but then we wouldn't have these beautiful pieces of music. So yes, Halo 4 soundtrack was pretty, and it was pretty incredible. However, it just wasn't very Halo, and I think that has been the underlying problem with most of what 343's changes have kind of involved. And, we could go on to this subject and talk about it literally all day, but, basically, I think that things aren't always going to be Halo for now on. I mean, we have to develop a new sense with what Halo really is. And so, but with that being said, I'm going to kind of contradict myself and say that Halo 4 soundtrack was not Halo. In my opinion, anyway, it was way off base, and I'm so happy that they didn't take that route. They should have done something much more like Halo 5 soundtrack, which I am a very big fan of. So Guns and Games 1226 says, while I love the Flood for the Flood to come back, I'm not making any conclusions yet. Now this is talking about the proof of the Halo 6 Flood coming back or whatever. This is that particular video. He says, it makes more sense for that to be the Flood than a Promethean. What's the point of a Promethean screech? Oh boy, we're gonna fight robot frogs and knights again in Halo 6. Would have never guessed. The Flood would be a much more epic return. So basically at the very end of Halo 5, to give more context to his comment, if you haven't seen the Halo 6 Proof the Flood will return in Halo 6 video, which was recently posted here in August of 2016, you can find it on YouTube, or I'll try to leave a comment down in the description, is that basically there was a little screech right at the end of Halo 5's legendary ending, have Cortana humming, there's a Halo ring, and then we hear a screech, which some people are saying that it's just the Halo ring itself, but I would have to say it was a screech that sounded like it would come from a flood spore or from some flood formation, right? So he says it would be a much more epic return, especially if they didn't tell anyone or show anything off before release so everyone gets surprised when they play the game. Like watching the next episode of your favorite TV show and a major plot twist hits you like a truck. That would be amazing for Halo 6. So Guns and Games, I'm going to have to definitely agree with you with that. I remember this old idea of Half-Life 3. You guys know what Half-Life 3 is, right? What if it just released one day on Steam, just randomly released, this game that people have been waiting for more than a decade, just randomly released, that's so highly anticipated. The lack of any talk about it is what makes it just keep staying viral, basically. And what if they just released it one day? And I would love for them to do a similar thing with Halo 6, just like Halo 6, it comes out, everyone knows about it though, and then it just has some crazy major plot twist that we weren't ever like told about. Because Halo hasn't been the best with marketing. Halo Reach, they told us the ending in the advertising, which is sort of what kind of pulls people through games and movies and whatnot, books and stuff. So it wasn't a great concept, although it's kind of hard to hide the story of it because it's kind of plastered even in the very first Halo book way back in the 2000s. So anyway, good stuff. So Michael Ricks says, I think that the next Halo, Halo 6, should bring back the Brutes and the Flood. Yes, definitely, that's what we've been talking about, buddy. The Brutes, I think, need to make a return, and I think whatever returns needs to make a good contrast in not only strategy in the game itself, but also maybe in a physical appearance, or maybe in just the very identity and entity of the very things that are to return. So let's say that, the Brutes return. I don't think having another Covenant leader, for example, like if we have 2 big Covenant leaders return in Halo 6, I think that would be boring and kind of repetitive. But I think if we had the Flood and that's balanced out with a large amount of Brutes, then that would be very interesting. But again, the Brutes and the Flood, the Flood could really mix in with a lot of different things, because a Flood itself can kind of manipulate and take over and make a form out of that. So basically, essentially, we'd be fighting Flood and also Brutes and Brute Floods. So Flood would work with anything, but they need to add a good contrast and mix between the 2 big enemies or foes that they bring back, whether that's the Prometheans, Flood, an old startup of the Covenant, maybe Storms of Synkelios turns bad, maybe a new race comes back, whatever it is. It needs to be fun and exciting and a good contrast. So Aiden Harris says, I don't like that they took the armor customization down to only helmet, visor, and torso. I hope that with Halo 6, they go back to the whole body customization with legs and shoulders and etc. So Aiden Harris, I think most of the Halo community is right with you here on this one. I don't understand really what they did with the armor customization. I don't understand what the reasons that they were. I mean, it could have been something about streamlining it, or maybe some kind of issue with making it work, blah, blah, blah. I'm spewing stuff that doesn't even matter. Just bring armor customization back. Please, 3 for 3, please. So Shackles says, Halo 5's maps. I'm sorry, I can't. Your YouTube profile picture is kind of distracting, buddy. Shackles says Halo 5's maps are so shit compared to previous Halos. I can think of loads of good maps in the original trilogy, but can't think of one memorable arena for Halo 5. You know what? We're going to look at this right now. I'm going to Google this stuff right now. Halo 4 maps, and then we're also going to, on a new tab, look up Halo 5 maps. Halo 4's maps were hardly, and I mean hardly, rememberable. Now, I would like to say, because this is a thing that personally annoyed me right when I started on my way with Halo 4 follower, because back in the day, of course I started with this whole follower thing with Halo 4 follower, and I noticed that none of the maps, and I complained to my friends, I specifically remember complaining to my friends about how all the maps look kind of like the art style is just not that great, Now, one of the maps I did kind of enjoy was Exile, but mainly mainly what I liked that what 3 for 3 did with Halo 4 was Haven and Longbow. Now, those are, in my opinion, pretty classic maps, but it's sad that Halo 4 came with such a small amount of maps. I think it only came with like 10 normal arena maps, I guess. Now, Halo 5, on the other hand, Halo 5 came on with a fair amount of maps, I think pretty much the same, but these maps, they did look better, not only just graphically, but there was more variety and there was a lot more things you could do in these maps, but they also didn't feel classic. And I really do want to make some kind of video talking about why is that? Why are these maps not so classic as where the other ones, the old ones, aren't? Now, we're going to just kind of test this right now, and I'm going to do a quick analysis right here live with you guys. And there were Halo 2 maps, believe it or not. There were Halo 3 maps, believe it or not, that we might be able to remember it, right? But that were not popular at all, right? So it's not like this new idea where like, and this might be a thought that if you're a fan of the new Halo games, or it doesn't even matter what you're a fan of or not, right? Just because these Halo's new and has a new art style doesn't mean that the people that don't like these maps or like what 3 is doing is just because like, they're rejecting the new and remembering the old. There are maps, in my opinion, that I like that 3 has made. There's not many. However, there are a few. Like I said, Haven and Longbow. Now, back in the old Halo games, there were many maps that weren't iconic. In fact, there are maps that I prefer in Halo 5 than ones in Halo 2 or Halo 3. For example, Assembly. Who remembers Assembly, right? I know some of you will, but of course, maps like Assembly or, Rat's Nest, for example. These maps are iconic, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that they weren't really as there was a big tier system of maps, right? Backwash, let's see, I was actually a big fan, but let's see, Jiminy, Gimini, I don't know how to say that. Relic, yeah, obviously a lot of these maps are familiar, but some of them have been kind of lost. Some of them did flop, right? But anyway, let's move on. Mahav77 says Halo 1 to 3 was actually innovation. They changed parts of the games without changing its identity entirely. Can't say the same with 3's Halos. So we're going back to what we were just talking about a moment ago, basically. They're just different and nothing unique about them. They play the same as every game that comes out today. Feels clunky, bad story, etc. I'm not hating, it's just the truth. It's not me being nostalgic because I actually liked Halo 4, but it's simply not Halo anymore. I hate to say it, but I believe that the only reason why you're talking good about Halo is because this channel depends on it. Ooh. Okay. Let's reply to that. Okay, he continues. If you tell people it sucks, people stop buying the games and stop watching your videos. Less people subscribing. Okay, interesting theory you got there. I have made many statements about what I don't like about Halo. In fact, if you look around, a lot of channels purposely talk bad about Halo to get a following. All right. And what I like to do here is I like to make a lot of analysis, a lot of recaps about lore, and a lot of opinionated stuff. When I first started HaloFollower, a lot of stuff was very biased. Now, what I like to do now is just come out and with just a straightforward, open dialogue with you guys and say, yes, I am biased. These are the positions, and yes, they do evolve over time. Now, and this is the same thing. I did not like a lot of what 3 was doing. Okay, because I've never personally disliked 3. However, I have disliked their decisions in the past. However, now I am liking their decisions with Halo 5. I was not a fan of Halo 4 by any means. Like, a big fan of Halo 4. Of course, I sat down and played it for hours on end sometimes, but it's not like anything like Halo 5 Guardians or Halo 3 was, right? Or is. So, you were basically talking about how Halo has been very mainstream to kind of put into the typical, meat grinder of everything, right? I agree with you, Mahav. I agree with you. I feel like a lot of Halo has been kind of pushed into maybe a less risky area. I was watching a video today talking about how there was all these great shows that came out on Nickelodeon in the 90s, and it was talking about the downfall of Nickelodeon, and one of them was how SpongeBob came out, and then SpongeBob worked, right? And so that made Nickelodeon basically less interested in experimenting because it worked. And because they got parents and they also got kids interested in the same stuff. And so basically I see a trend here happening with anything, right? When people find out, especially like, these big studios, big movie makers, blockbusters, whatever, think of Transformers, right? It was a great thing, but then when they figured out it worked, they just kind of milked it, right? And so that seems to be the trend with a lot of companies. They don't have any remorse for the soul or the dignity of the actual product itself, but to milk it dry and to make people hate it eventually. And that's what I'm a little bit scared that they are doing with Halo. However, they might just be going in the route, and in the context of this may not be the exact same of the metaphor or what is the example I gave a second ago, but basically, trying to catch up with my breath here, is Halo has probably taken the easy route and is probably going to stay on the easy route. And it's a shame because Halo has always been known for taking risk. And yeah, I know Halo has taken a lot of risks, especially with the clamber and staying with the sprint, but they've added stuff. They've experimented. They've done stuff that no other game has done before. One of these big things is adding theater or adding such a big video, like an actual editor into their game, like Forge, and I'm just trying to think of all the different things and why they're not being as revolutionary nowadays as they were back in Halo 1 and 3, because so many things are possible now. I mean, have you guys heard about No Man's Sky? There's so many things possible now in the gaming world. It's kind of hard to keep up. So I'm defending them there. But anyway, I do want to get to your point saying about how I'm only talking good about Halo. It seems like people say, well, you should not talk about bad. You shouldn't talk bad about 343 or Halo because of this. You're not a real fan, or you're stuck in the past, or blah, blah, blah. And then I have other people telling me this, that you're just talking good about Halo. If you watched all my videos, Mahav77, you would see that I have formed my own opinion on these things. And I probably wouldn't even be here on YouTube if I wasn't if I didn't let myself talk about the things that I wanted to talk about, such as like my opinions on Halo. So my opinions are genuine, and yeah. So that's pretty much it. And I like to express them. So if you watched all my videos, you'll know that I am very not fair, I would say, but very genuine in what I think is Halo nowadays. So thank you. So the Blue Jay says, bring back the precursors, but they misinterpret the humans UNSC for the Foreigners by Cortana, so now Chief has to stop the precursors and Cortana from destroying the human race. Meanwhile, Arbiter is trying to stop the rebirth of the Covenant when they find an old relic, Foreigner relic, that could destroy anything in its path. And then randomly he puts Halo 6 out there at the end. So I'm not even going to really comment on that. I'll let you guys interpret this message. Adam S017 says, we need to be able to customize more than just our helmet, armor, and visor color. It's horrible. In Reach and in 4, we could customize way more. In Halo 6, we should be able to customize our helmet attachments, chest attachments, left shoulder attachments, right shoulder attachments, wrist attachments. Man, he really wants 343 to read this thoroughly. Utility attachments, knee guard attachments, right leg. Okay, we get it. A lot of stuff. Even visor attachments. we need the emblem foreground and background system back, and 343 needs to make the Forge much bigger. Forge World needs to return because it was great for clan activities. Forge, I want to get into that in just a second. Rec system can stay, but armor needs a credit-like system. I don't care about weapons anyway. As soon as I get the MK5 in Halo 5, I probably just won't play anything but custom games after that. So, very interesting stuff. Obviously, I think when you are developing a game, and when I used to develop games, this is like an old, like, it's sort of like a duh thing, but in this crazy world that we live in, it seems like the common sense isn't very so common. When you have a game and a franchise like Halo, and a lot of people like this one specific thing that you have, and they don't like 100 other things, you think that instead of trying to make those 100 other things work, you would bring back that thing that people love and make it better, And I highly doubt that a Thrift 3 employee has not heard of anything like Forge World. I think they were even asked questions about Forge World. And so I mean, I like the idea of new and evolving and stuff, but the armor customization, I don't really see much of an excuse for it. I mean, unless it was like a technical reason why they didn't have customization that much in Halo 5 Guardians, then I don't really understand why they would downplay something so big, and it's almost like, thankfully they didn't do this, but you know how Spartan Ops didn't work? That's sort of like the same idea here. You, as a game developer, and keep in mind, I'm not like an official game developer. I was an indie game developer, or really technically a modder. But you want to be able to work off what people like and scratch the things that people don't like. It's very, very simple. And so they need to they do need to make customization a much bigger thing. Maybe just because we don't throw huge tantrums about it, like the rocket launcher, like we did, and another huge YouTuber, I think it was The Epidemic. Just because we don't throw big tantrums over it doesn't mean that we don't want things to, stay the same or to change, So just throwing that out there. Jacob Mick Robert says, I think we take Halo 5 for granted. Yes, touche, brother. It has so many cool features, and I bet y'all that in Halo 5 or so years, a lot of Halo fans will have a formed nostalgia for Halo 5, and then everyone will hate on Halo 6. That's my prediction for the future of this community. We love the last game and hate the new one, and the pattern continues. Now, Jacob, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here, just between me and you and anybody else that is listening. People always hate. It doesn't matter if it's old or if it's new. People find any reason to make themselves uncomfortable and to hate and to have hate in their heart. So let me just let you know that, all right? I'm a YouTuber with 400 something thousand subs. I work on a big channel, especially Halo, so I would know, all right? So my prediction is that your prediction will come true. There seems to be a pattern. There's a bandwagon in both directions. People will love the new because it's new, but hate the old, and then vice versa. And so, of course, this is going to always happen. And then he says this negative habit that part of the community has formed needs to stop. I think that part of every community and every aspect of life needs to stop. There will be people that will just. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of opinions and thoughts and everything. So, I think it's just a natural course of things, Jacob. And I think it's also a good thing in some ways. And I think it can evolve in some good things anyway. So Lord Shrek says this theory actually makes a lot of sense. So he's talking about the proof of the flood in Halo 6. He says, in the legendary ending, Cortana is humming the tune of their 3 Guilty Spark. I don't think she is. He says, I think everyone can agree with this. Now, the prevailing theory is that Guilty Spark has taken over Cortana's body, and that she is not really evil. Now, hold on, guys, don't click away, hold on. And he says, and is simply being used as a puppet. Different 3's Guilty Spark's intentions were to activate the rings. The Halo rings were made to destroy all life and kill the floods of food source. If Guilty Spark really has taken over her body and he wants to activate a Halo ring, that means the flood are back, guys. The hype is real. So, Lord Shrek, I don't know what's going on with your username and especially your profile pic and your comment, but nonetheless, I decided to put it up on here because for whatever reason, it has 30 likes. So, I can't tell if this comment is satire. It doesn't look like there's any real signs that it is satire, which means that maybe trolling has somewhat returned with some class in Halo. But anyway, Cortana has not been taken over by Guilty Spark, but I understand the idea of using the Halo rings to destroy the flood. Why else would you use the Halo rings, right? Unless you just wanted to put it into all the madness and send everyone back to the Stone Age. Or maybe you wanted to hold a gun to the head of the universe. I think that's actually the name of one of the soundtracks. I think for Halo 3. I think that's the name of a soundtrack in Halo 3. So, it really is. The ring is really like a gun to the head of the galaxy. And so, I mean, it is very bad news that Cortana now has a gun to the head of the galaxy. Now, that brings a lot of power. Like, for example, she could say, hey, everyone, I'm going to pull the trigger if I don't find Master Chief in 30 days. And it could be, or she could just not pull the trigger at all, or maybe be bluffing, but it seems to be a much more related to the Flood. But I think that maybe adding a new twist onto the franchise, having it like where instead of using the Halo rings for the obvious purpose, she's using it for something else. That's what I'm mainly trying to get at. If she uses the rings not for just the Flood, although I would love the Flood, but if she uses it for something else, I think that would all not only be original but also pretty witty of 3 for 3. I like the idea. So Logan Bossinger says, what I want in Halo 5: 1. More Halo 3 style Forerunners. Number 2. Hornets, Wasp, Falcons. 3. Split screen. 4. The Flood. 5. Stronger Scorpion machine gun. You can get sniped easily. 6. Better jetpack. 7. More Forge updates. 8. No in-game purchases. I didn't know there was a jetpack in Halo 5. Number 8. I really don't understand why this bothers people so much. Halo 5's rec system, at least the microtransactions, it really doesn't help you get ahead that much, I mean, I'm trying to think of all the things you can buy. There's nothing that necessarily makes you more powerful in the game. It's not like you can buy better weapons like in PlanetSide 2 or something like that. It is very straightforward, just you have a larger chance of getting some items that you can use in multiplayer that anybody can get, And so if you don't want to play that many games and you just want to speed up the process and get some more items, have a larger chance to get some Wasp in your rec, it doesn't mean that you don't have to earn it, obviously, in Warzone, but it is there for you. So that's the only way I can really think of how it would affect gameplay. But really, look at the big picture. In-game purchases in the context of Halo 5's microtransactions really doesn't do a whole lot. So, I mean, I don't really see what the big deal with that is. Number 7, of course, more Forge updates, but less. I would say instead of Forge updates, let's make it where there's less Forge updates, but more to come with the actual game. So there doesn't need to be so many updates. Number 4, the Flood, of course, has been a huge topic this month or so. Split screen, obviously, 3 for 3. You gotta listen to the people, man. You gotta listen to us. They gotta listen to us, right? Split screen is such an important thing, and they made such a big mistake not bringing it back. Please don't think that what you did with split screen will just stick and we're okay with it. We're not. A lot of people are still resentful. Some people are actually looking forward to an update, right? A split screen update. That would be awesome, but I doubt it's going to happen. Anyway, Hornets, Wasp, and Falcons. Basically, all the things you're talking about here, bud, is just like half of the things you're talking here, Logan, is like basically finish the game before you make it, or before you release it. Talking about no more Forge updates, split screen, Hornets, Wasps, all that good stuff. But anyway, moving on. Tanner Bray says gameplay over graphics. Obviously, for the longest time possible. But Tanner, so many of us kind of take for granted on how much graphics actually impacts the interaction between you and the game. It creates this, especially if they can pull it off right, this realism about the game, and that kind of pulls you in. And so that's sort of what every writer, every developer wants to do, is to try to pull you in and to make you into fall in love with this like almost real life experience. That's why they're creating virtual reality headsets, So the idea about that is that they're trying to make you actually live it. And so better graphics tends to make our minds, kind of blur the lines between what is a fictional or I guess non-fictional game into reality, kind of blur the lines between that, And so graphics are very important. Yes, they worried about graphics in the 90s and 80s. If you look up old trailers, they some of them talked about advertising like, hey, look at this. This Spider-Man game has 12 more pixels. I'm not even joking here. They used to talk about graphics. Graphics have always been important, and of course gameplay is. But one big, and I swear to God, it is almost like such a perfect representation of the split screen problem is how much they're willing to sacrifice the graphics, that 1080p that they want so bad. They want it so bad, that 60 FPS, so that they can say that their game is 60 FPS, so that they can represent Halo 5 like that just for gameplay. It's almost ridiculous. It's almost ridiculous. Actually, it is. It is. Okay, so Ryan Weiser says, I want a very dark, scary Halo 6. So, like Comic Relief, I think that there needs to be more fear involved with Halo 6. There needs to be more comic relief. There needs to be more darkness and scariness, which is kind of contradicting each other. But I like the idea of there kind of being a funny, but also very serious, dark, real tone to the game, and there really wasn't that with Halo 5 Guardians. There was like a, oh my, like kind of when you're watching fireworks, for examples, you're just kind of like shocked and amazed at this awesome, and I don't mean awesome in a good context, but this awesome thing happening, like all these Guardians coming out of the ground and Chief chasing after it. It's like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Kind of like this denial, confused state. But I think Halo 6 needs to really, really, really hit home with that, oh shit, like this, like hold on tight roller coaster ride kind of thing. So yes, definitely Ryan Reiser, I'm right there with you, bud. So Taylor Roberts, he quotes me or somebody else, I don't know. He says, let's see what they have to offer. He says, in response to this, well, geez, we've only given them a chance on 6 games, and they pretty much fucked them up. Hell, they even fucked up making a game that is just a compilation of games that they didn't make, except for Halo 2 Anniversary. I actually think they did a good job, except the multiplayer. I think they should have made made it a standalone title. The reason why most veteran players love the first games is because of how it was perceived at the time, and the nostalgia factor, obviously. The first games were revolutionary. They helped kickstart the phenomenon, and I think that's what he's trying to say, of the first-person shooters on console, along with a few other titles, such as GoldenEye 007. The newer games are not as satisfying due to due to the way of games were delayed. Instead of attempting to continue to evolve the Halo gameplay, they instead chose to choose what is popular in FPS games and throw it into Halo games because they thought it would help broaden their audience. So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. They don't want to take risks, sort of like Nickelodeon, right? They find something that works. They know that the general FPS formula works. It works very well. All right, let's not throw the FPS formula under the bus. It does work well, but are we, and let me just put all these topics and thoughts aside, are we really ready? Are we as a community ready to be that game that potentially flops because of experimentation? Is Halo worth risking at this point? Some of you may say yes, of course, but is it really worth coming out with another gigantic flop, Some people said that was Halo Reach. Some people, of course, love Halo Reach, right? Are we ready for another like Halo 4, but like in a horrible, horrible version of it, right? I mean, I don't know if we are, right? I don't know if Halo is completely ready to go into a completely different area, and I think this is why I've been suggesting for a long time that they need to start up a saga, another branch of the saga that has some kind of twist, that experimentation. I said that they should have kept Halo 4, 5, and 6, like Halo, strictly by the book, with, of course, a couple evolutions, but they should have started up their own 343 branded franchise, XXD1GX Doug XX says maybe these people who want the flood back are just really the flood themselves. Probably. And of course, we are on our last comment. Izuzu Maki says there's a difference between evolution and de-evolution or devolution. So the rec system as a progression mechanic is entirely pay to win. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Okay. Those who drop some cash will always have access to the higher tier items for longer spans of time. It takes an all self-expression and pride out of armor customization, as now that all armor pieces are packed together in a set and randomized fewer combinations are possible. But that doesn't make it a pay-to-play win. Okay, and by the way, pay to win. I didn't know. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna let him finish first. Okay, and pride out of armor customization, as now all the armor pieces are packed together in a set and randomized fewer combinations are possible, alongside the fact that instead of rare armors evolving dread an opponent out of fear for said player's skill, they now evoke envy from players' luck. So I'm happy I actually let him finish, because I actually had not thought about that before. So it's almost like they threw a free-to-play spin in there. And I feel like they might actually be considering making Halo 6 or another big Halo game free-to-play. Because the free-to-play model in the gaming industry, and I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, I'm just saying that it tends to actually be extremely successful, because talk about broadening your audience. There's a lot of free-to-play games, but there's not many high-quality ones. So if Halo became a free-to-play one, especially one on Windows 10 as well, oh my god. I mean, Halo boosted. I mean, it exploded. I think it was early July when it became free-to-play. Only for a week, though. And so that is an interesting idea to throw out there. So basically what he's saying, and I'm happy that we can finish up on this. This is, again, our last comment. It's a very interesting topic, to say the least. He says that the rec system is entirely, as a progression mechanic, is entirely paid to win. Now, we talked about this earlier, but the rec system can only offer a few things, right? It can only offer you armor, it can only offer you skins, and recs, things that you can use in the game, right? And I'm sure a couple other things I didn't mention, but mainly those things, right? He's talking about how the armor and the good armor is pretty much basically the whole rec system conspiracy is to make players want to get something, and so they keep playing in hopes that they get this one thing, you know? Now, personally, I've never been looking for anything specifically. You know, when I see somebody wearing cool armor, I don't really think about that, because I got so much armor. I'm not really like, oh my gosh, I want that one helmet that I don't even know the name of, you know? And so, I mean, he may have a point. Let me know. Actually, I don't even want to come up with a conclusion in this video, guys. I'm gonna set some time on this. I want to hear what you guys think about this. Please talk about it, because I do want to talk about it in the next episode. Let's have a discussion. I want to bring you guys into it. So what do you think about this? Is the rec system an entirely pay-to-win scheme, or is it just something that they're for 3 try it out? Or what do you think about it? I would love to know y'all's opinions and thoughts about this matter. Be sure to comment down in the comment section below. I try to get your comments for next week's Halo Club, which of course we aim for Monday, but sometimes we're late like today. So guys, thank you again so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Be sure to drop this video a like, and by the way, we are doing a giveaway again, follower.gg. Be sure to participate. I'm very excited about next month's giveaway. That is yet to be announced, but I think I might announce it here early next week, so be sure to tune in to next week's episode. And yeah, all right, okay, cool. Thanks, guys. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.